Hello everybody, welcome back to the Redneck Stick where we do stupid stuff on a budget. I have purchased from Kansas, almost Kansas, somewhere in Oklahoma next to Kansas, this 1974 AMC Gremlin because I am an idiot. We are going to make this thing run, drive, have brakes, and eventually swap in this Jeep 4-liter engine with an AX5 5-speed transmission. This will be getting a turbo of some kind to be determined and running on -square. This, on the other hand, runs barely on a Carter YF 1-barrel carburetor from a Ford F-150, but this is factory for the vehicle. This video, we're going to be rebuilding that and getting this thing to run halfway correct. So first thing we got to do, obviously, remove the carburetor. Take a little 1/2-inch wrench and remove this choke heat, which is completely functional because it's definitely hooked up to the exhaust manifold where it should be. This is not the right tool for the job, but it will work. Welcome to the Redneck Stick. Alright, crack that loose with a 1/2 inch and get our choke heat off. Yeah, good. Next thing we're going to do is come over here. And pull our throttle linkage off. That just pops out and falls aside. Beautiful. Now we'll grab a 9/16 wrench. We're going to loosen both of our bolts that hold the carburetor down, pop our return spring off, and just leave it sitting there. And now we'll get this off. Get a little bit of bad gas in our hands. Always a good smell to go home with. The ladies love it.
That fuel filter looks really clean.
This is a brand new fuel filter. This will not look at that.
Yeah, it's just...
Alright, now make sure to dump gas all over the shop and in the intake. This will clean those direct injection intake valves. What we're going to do is get all these little flathead screws out. You can tell by these new parts and this gasket sticking out that this carburetor at one point was rebuilt, but judging by the fact that when the car's running it pours gas everywhere and the car doesn't have an accelerator pump and the car doesn't run right, this carburetor was rebuilt very poorly. So what we're going to do is rebuild it less poorly so the car might have a chance at running just a little bit better. So we'll get all the little flatheads out. We'll make sure they roll on a bench, roll on the ground, roll under the table so we'll never find them again. So this pops up, allowing this to come out of our choke. Pretty simple stuff. And leaving these screws in their holes, although we can tell the hole that's recessed the most has the short screw in it, and the holes that come up, you can tell right away these have the long screws. Very difficult to get wrong when you're putting it back together because they just won't go in, or they won't thread. Now the next thing we're going to do is remove the 1, 2, 3, 4 screws for the accelerator pump, which is our main concern because that is not functioning. Next we're going to unclip this right here. You can see that's a small little C-clip. With that out of the way, this small spring comes out. This comes out. Now on the bottom side, after loosening this little flathead screw, this slides off with this small linkage attached. And what that allows is for this arm, if we flip the carburetor over, that now releases this arm, and now we can remove the accelerator pump. With the accelerator pump removed, you'll note this actually looks new, so at one point it was probably rebuilt. Obviously something was done incorrectly because we don't have a accelerator pump shot of gas whenever we floor it. Dismantling the pump is relatively easy. Pull the spring down and release this little C-clip. This is difficult to do with one hand. And then that allows this guy to slide down and out of the body. So you have 3 screws that separate this body and this body, and those screws are here and here, which is on the underside, and then facing upright There's one screw right here. One thing that might be attributed to the accelerator pump not working is the little check ball and check weight were not installed. We just took this apart, nothing. So we'll drop the check ball in and drop the check weight in according to the diagram. Those are supposed to be in there, so that's what we're going to do. So next thing we're going to do is take our accelerator pump and pump housing and get this lined up. And then next we'll take the little spring the little clip and install it like that. Get them started. Now with the accelerator pump, there's this little hole right here, and you line it up with the hole on there on the body. Oop. Drop it in where it goes and get the screws started. Alright, next we're going to take this bar and drop this in here, and then we will take our, which we cleaned up a little bit, our metering valve. And one thing to note is I was reading about these, the metering valve fits loosely in the little metering jet down at the bottom of the carburetor. That's normal. So this, you want to line up the metering jet. This little spring goes on, and then pull that down a little bit, and then this little C-clip clips on. Now that's been installed. Now with a little fresh gas, we'll pump the accelerator pump, and you'll see on the upstroke, you'll see the gasoline start to flow out. And that's what you want, so we know that that's functional. Alright, next thing we're going to do is replace our needle and seat. So we'll take this out, take this little guy out, and then on these, our needle and our seat, our needle looks to come in two pieces, and it looks like, yep, a little bitty spring in there. Little spring drops in there, that drops in there, and then we'll save our pen. Get our screwdriver, which is not big enough, so we'll grab a bigger screwdriver. And there's our little seat with the gasket. Now our new one comes with the gasket, so we'll put that on. Now, new needle, new spring, and then a little second piece drops in there. We'll shake our float, make sure there's no gas in there. Drop it in, put the pin through, and we're done with this piece. So for the choke, we have 3 flathead screwdrivers. 3 flathead screws. This comes out. Take our gasket. New gasket isn't a perfect match, but it'll work. That's what you want to hear. Good enough for the vehicle this thing's going on. So the reason this wasn't going together right, because this was on backwards. So we flip that around, and that sets in that little divot there. So now we'll take the gasket, set that right there. And that mates on here. We're going to drop our check ball and weight real quick. Next up, we'll take this linkage and that. Just slides right on. And then with a flathead screwdriver, we tighten it on the shaft. So that linkage moves with the throttle, which is what you want. Then next, check ball, check weight. Just set up our gasket. Yeah, we're going to send it. If it doesn't work, we'll slather it with RTVs. We're going to send this. And then this is off the vehicle factory, phenolic spacer. And then we're going to drop this gasket on. And then we're going to drop the carburetor on. And we're going to see that the linkages halfway work, which they kind of do. And that opens a little bit. We'll see that that works. And then we're going to grab our little nuts. So a little brake clean there just to get things going, and then my favorite tool for tuning carburetors that don't want to run right is this little trigger to start the vehicle. So we'll jump one.
An auxiliary starter switch.
There we go. I'll put a link in the description where you can get one. That way you don't got to jump around using the key and whatnot. And then second one, put on the starter. Ignition's already on because the key is stuck in the run position, which is what you want.
Very good.
We'll see if it cranks right up. That runs a lot better than it did before.